Today we're going to learn how to applique. So the first step of doing this is you have to thread your needle. I'm going to very carefully take a needle out of my sewing kit, and I'm going to get a piece of thread that is about arm's length. Now the tricky part about doing this is you have to get your thread poked through the very tiny eye of your needle. So sometimes if you're lucky, you can do this just by hand. Or if you are having a little bit of trouble with that, you can also use a needle threader. So a needle threader is a very kind of breakable tool, but it's really handy for threading your needle if you're having trouble with the thread. So you just take this very thin little metal wire and you poke it through the eye of your needle. Now this is a little easier to do than thread because the wire is so stiff that it's easy to poke through there. After you've poked it through, you can put your thread through the wire, that big wire hole of your needle threader, and then pull the needle threader back out through the eye of your needle. And when you do that, that will also pull the thread through the eye as well. Now after you have your thread in the needle, you are going to pull it through so that both ends line up. So we'll kind of be sewing with 2 pieces of thread. That'll make it extra strong. Now we have to tie a knot in the ends of our thread. So the best way that I've learned to do this is to just take the end of our thread, pinch it between your fingers, and wrap it around your pointer finger like so. Okay, so one more time. Pinch it at the very end, wrap it around your pointer finger, and then, still pinching, I'm going to carefully roll the thread out by scooching my pointer finger along my thumb. I'm just slowly scooching it, and as I scooch, it's creating a rolled up area of thread. So it's rolling, rolling, rolling. Then I pinch that rolled up area and pull it tight. And it creates a really nice big knot from all the rolls that you've made, and then when you pull it tight, the rolls don't come out. This trick does take just a little bit of practice, but once you get the hang of it, it is the best way to make a good knot. Now that we have our needle threaded, we're going to get out our 2 fabric pieces that we made for our soft sculpture. One's for the front and one's for the back. So if your 2 pieces of fabric are not the same, you're going to have to decide which piece you want for the front. Now I think I'm going to have this fancier piece be the front of my soft sculpture's face, and then I'm going to look carefully at both sides to decide which one I want the front to be, and I think I definitely like this side. So after you have the front of your soft sculpture, you are going to decide what kind of mouth, eyes, and other details you want to put on it. So I went to the scrap box and got a piece of green scrap, and I cut it into the shape that I wanted for my mouth. So I'm just going to lay that out where I want the mouth to be. Make sure that you don't put any details close to the edge, because eventually when we sew our soft sculpture together, those details are going to get covered up. So you need to keep them right in the center, and make sure that you can fit a finger's width between the edge of your detail and the edge of the fabric. So it looks like I'm good right there, and I'm good at the bottom too. Now once you have it placed, I'm going to put a pin into it so that it doesn't move around. So push down and then kind of bend it to get that needle back up. And now I'm ready to start sewing. So I'm going to be doing a running stitch that goes all the way around the edge of the shape that I'm sewing. I'm going to start at the back. That way my needle can kind of poke up through the fabric this way, and it will hide that big knot that we created. We don't really want the knot to show on the front. We want it to be hidden on the back side. So I've got my needle poked up, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit for this part. And now I'm going to pull my needle all the way through both pieces of fabric until that knot catches at the back. Now I'm going to go back down through the fabric to create my first stitch. And then pull it all the way through. Don't leave a big loop of fabric or of thread hanging out like this. You have to pull it all the way through the fabric. And there you can see my first little white stitch. So now I have to go back through the bottom and then pull it all the way through. And I'm just going to keep going up and down through the fabric, creating a bunch of little stitches all the way around the edge. Now the secret to doing a good job on your applique is you have to make sure that your stitches are small and very nice and neat, because the stitches do show. People will be able to see these stitches on the front of your square monster or whatever type of creature you're creating. So you want them to look really nice and not messy. You also want them to be very, very small as possible. And I'm just going to keep on going until I have sewn my running stitch all the way around the edge of my shape. Now I haven't got all the way back to the end yet, but I had to stop because I'm almost running out of thread and I'm going to have to get some more onto my needle. So when this happens to you, make sure that you leave enough thread left so that you can easily tie a knot with it on the back of your fabric again. So I'm going to wait until my needle gets to the back. So I've done that. I'm going to very carefully flip it over and I'm going to twist it and make a loop with my thread and then put the needle through the loop and then pull it tight. Now I like to try to get my knot as close to the fabric as I can, and then when I get that twist all the way down to the fabric, I put my finger on it and pull it tight. And I like to usually make a double knot, so I'm doing the same step again. Wiggle that knot all the way down and then pull it tight. Then you can trim off the extra. Throw your extra thread away if you had a little bit left over. And get more thread in your needle using the needle threader, just like we did before. So I now have my mouth and my eyebrows appliqued on to the front of my soft sculpture. So I just want to show you a close-up so you can see how tiny the stitches are and how mostly straight they are. I tried to make them as straight as possible. I also wanted to show you the back. So the back looks kind of the same. You can still see those tiny little dashed line running stitches. And you can also see where I have some of my messy knots on the back. That's okay, the knots are on the back, you won't see them at the end, and they're really important for making sure that our stitches don't come out of the fabric.